testing. As we have learnt in the last class about the post get, post, and different kinds of test methods. And also we have learnt about authentication, authorization, and different authentication techniques. So in today's class, we'll continue to learn more concepts about API testing. And first we'll learn like what needs to verify in API testing. So why do we do API testing and what exactly we are going to test or like verify as part of API testing. First one is accuracy of the data, how accurate the data is. So we will check with the with the API response, and also we check the HTTP status codes. So we'll be having a different status code uh, to check, and if there is an error, there is an error status code which will be given, and if it is a success, we'll be getting a 200 OK kind of status code. And also we check the response time with the API, like how much time it takes to give the response for a given request. So that also we check as part of API testing. And as I mentioned, the different status codes. So error codes is a very important thing. In case of API returns any errors, it shows the error codes. And also we check the authorization checks, like we will be having I mean to check whether the authorization valid authorization checks are happening or not. That also we check as part of authorization check. And also a non-functional test such as a performance test and security. As I told before, response time is one type of non-functional test or like performance, but along with that we also can check different kinds of performance and security as part of API testing. So next one is we come across like different APIs, and when we check the API, there are two main things as a part of parameter we pass. One is a path parameter and query parameter. Okay, so when we have a API, so how it looks exactly? So I'm showing you in the image here. So we'll be having a base URL which contains the protocol like HTTPS and also the domain name. Both together is called as a base URL. And in protocol, like we have HTTP and HTTPS, and the domain subdomain is like www dot, and the main like second level domain which is related to the company. And also like we have a top level domain like .com. And also when there is an API, we also provide a path. So that is called like path with a where we land or like where we get that data. So that path we provide here, and this particular URI is called as the path parameter because we are providing the path after the base URL. The same way for the different API, we also provide a query parameter as well. So this is an example of query parameter where we give a base URI like host name as I mentioned, and here also we provide some path, but after the path we will be having a parameter as a query parameter. So query parameter basically it has the attribute and the value to filter the data, okay, and give the relevant data. So that's the reason like we provide the query parameter, and it mainly contains this question mark as well as the equal to. And if we have a multiple query parameter, we separate with the and symbol. So here we have service as an attribute and mail as a value for that, and passive is the attribute and true is the value. Like that we have three query parameter here. So this is the difference between the path parameter and query parameter. Okay, so next we will learn what is the core components of HTTP request. So for any request of HTTP, we need to have some core components. So those core components contains, one is we have already learned about the method. There are different methods like get, post, put, patch, and delete. Okay, so that is the first thing we should know as a part of HTTP request. And second one is the base URI. So base URI is also called as base uniform resource identifier. So we have seen that URI, right? That is the base URI. And next one is the resource and the parameter. So in some cases, when we have to have a specific data or a filtered data, we provide the parameter to get the data or the response. So those are called as resource and parameters. Along with that, in some cases, we have to provide the request header which carries the metadata such as key value pairs. As we seen for the query parameter, we have to provide these key value pairs for the HTTP request message. And also we have to provide the body of the request which indicates the message content or the resource representation. Basically for the post request or put request, we have to provide the body to update or create the data, the request. So in such cases we provide the body of the request. Those are the main core components of the HTTP request. We also will see what is the HTTP response core components. So core components of HTTP response are the response status code, so which we have already uh, mentioned, like there are different status code for success as well as the failure or errors. There are response codes issued by server for the client request. For example, 404 means page not found. So if the request is given and if we are getting a response as 404 means the page is not found. That's what the server sends a response. So that is a status code. And next one is HTTP version. So HTTP version name, for example, HTTP v2.2, 3.3, like that we have a different versions of HTTP. So those we provide as a part of HTTP version or like get a response. And response header, it includes the information for the HTTP response message. For example, the content length, date, status, server type, etc. are part of the response header. And also as a response body, there is component is a response body. It contains the data which a client requested from the server. For example, if we give a get request, we will be getting a response with a list of the details. Those are called as a response body. And it is either it will be, most of the time it will be in the JSON format, and in some cases we can verify as a part of XML as well. Okay, so these are the main core components of the HTTP response. And there are we need to learn more about the REST API response code. Okay, so there are different kinds of status code we get. For example, uh, the starts with 1, for example 100 or 101. So those kind of response codes are called as information codes. And if the response code starts with 2 or a 200 series, those are called as a success codes. And if the response code starts with a 3 or a 300 series, that is called as a redirect codes. And the main thing is the response code starts with a 400, that is a client error codes, means the response is, the error code is from the client side. And when we get a response for the with a 5 or like 500 series, those are the server errors. So server is giving those response as an error. Those are called server response codes. So we'll learn more about these status codes in the next class. So keep watching about API testing and subscribe to Testing Guru channel so that you can get a notification. And thanks for watching.